Short overall story idea: a mysterious corpse arrives at a city morgue late at night. During the autopsy, strange black fluid seeps from its wounds, and the body begins to move. What seems like a routine examination turns into terror, as the dead awakens with a dark secret. The morgue becomes a trap, where the line between life and death is shattered. Part 1. The body arrives. The morgue was never truly silent. Even when no one was around, the humming of old fluorescent lights and the dripping sound of leaking pipes created an eerie rhythm inside its cold tiled halls. The air was thick with the mixed stench of antiseptic dust, and something far less pleasant, the lingering odor of bodies that had once held life. Dr. Rahman sat at his desk, flipping through patient files. His face was calm but weary, lines etched deep into his skin from years of handling the dead. Tonight, however, his unease was hard to hide. The air felt heavier than usual, almost suffocating. Shafik, a medical intern in his early 20s, stood nearby. It was his first night shift at the city morgue, and though he had spoken bravely about it earlier, his trembling hands betrayed his nerves. He had watched horror movies all his life, but the real smell of death was something no screen could prepare him for. The heavy morgue door screeched open, breaking the tense silence. 2 police constables entered, pushing a stretcher. On it lay a black, zipped body bag. Neither constable spoke much, and both avoided eye contact with the doctors. This one came from the outskirts, one of them muttered. An abandoned house. Neighbors complained of a foul smell. When we broke in, this was lying in the living room. The other constable quickly signed the paperwork. Then the 2 men left without looking back, their footsteps echoing down the corridor, as if they couldn't wait to be away from the morgue. The bag seemed to pulse slightly under the fluorescent lights. Shafik blinked, telling himself it was just his imagination. Still, his throat tightened. Go on, Dr. Rahman said, adjusting his gloves. Open it. Shafik hesitated before stepping forward. His fingers fumbled on the zipper, and with a sharp metallic sound, he pulled it down. Inside lay the corpse of a man. His skin was pale, stretched tight across his bones. His eyes were half open, glassy and clouded, staring at nothing. His mouth sagged open, as if caught in the middle of a silent scream. But it wasn't his expression that unsettled Shafik most, it was the wound. A jagged tear ran across the chest. Not like a knife wound, but something rougher, as though claws had ripped through flesh and bone. The edges of the gash were blackened, burnt-looking. Swallowed hard. For a brief second, he thought he saw the corpse's chest rise, as though it had taken a shallow breath. His heart jumped into his throat. He stumbled back, knocking over a tray of instruments. The metallic clang echoed across the room. Dr. Roman's sharp eyes darted toward him. Control yourself. It's just a body. But even the seasoned doctor felt something was wrong. The body was transferred onto the steel table, under the harsh white light. The corpse looked even more grotesque. Dr. Rahman picked up a scalpel. Scalpel. He ordered. Shafik handed it over reluctantly. The blade glistened under the light, with practiced precision. Dr. Rahman made the first incision across the chest. The sound was sickening, like wet fabric tearing. From the wound seeped not blood, but a dark, viscous fluid, thicker than tar, reeking of burnt metal and sulfur. The smell hit Shafik so hard he gagged, clutching his mask. This isn't right, the intern whispered. Dr. Rahman ignored him, though his own forehead beaded with sweat. He widened the incision. More black fluid oozed out, coating the table, dripping to the floor. The lights flickered overhead, as though reacting to the stench. Then something happened. The corpse's hand twitched. Both men froze. It's just a reflex, Dr. Rahman said quickly, though his voice lacked conviction. He pressed on, cutting deeper. The hand twitched again, this time stronger. Fingers curling slightly. Shafik stepped back. His breath came fast. Sir. It's moving. Before Dr. Rahman could reply, the corpse's cloudy eyes rolled upward, then snapped open, revealing pupils as black as the fluid that poured from its body. The lights above buzzed violently, one bulb bursting with a loud pop. The room plunged into a half-shadow. Shafik screamed. The corpse sat up. Part 2. The morgue awakens. The morgue had always been a cold place, but now the chill seemed to seep directly into their bones. The fluorescent lights above buzzed weakly, one of them still sputtering from the last burst. The corpse sat half upright on the steel table, black liquid dripping steadily from its open chest cavity. Shafik pressed himself against the far wall, trying to melt into the cold tiles. His eyes were wide with terror, darting between the corpse and Dr. Rahman. His lips moved, but only fragments came out, broken syllables. Prayers. WHIMPERS. Dr. Rahman, however, was still a man of science. He forced himself to stay composed, though his breathing had grown heavy. The scalpel lay useless on the floor, far from his reach, where the corpse had knocked it away when it grabbed his wrist. His hand throbbed with pain. The grip of the dead thing was stronger than any living man's. The corpse slowly turned its head, bones creaking with the sound of dry wood snapping. Its cloudy eyes had cleared, pupils now black voids, rimmed faintly in crimson. The jaw cracked open wider, impossibly wide, and when it spoke again the voice echoed like it was coming from deep tunnels under the earth. You opened the door. The lights overhead flickered violently. The hum of electricity rose to a sharp whine, then cut off. Suddenly, the morgue was plunged into darkness. Only the faint glow from the emergency exit sign bathed the room in a sickly red hue. Shafik screamed. It wasn't a full scream, but a sharp gasp ripped from his lungs. His legs threatened to give way, yet instinct forced him to run. He bolted toward the morgue door and yanked the handle. Locked, he pulled again and again, slamming his shoulder against it. Nothing. Dr. Rahman's mind raced. How is this possible? A corpse cannot move. Muscles can spasm. Yes, but this is something else. He tried to pull free from the grip, but the hand of the corpse only tightened, its nails digging into his flesh. Shafik, Rahman barked, help me. The intern spun around, face pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. He didn't want to, but fear of disobeying kept him moving. He grabbed a surgical hammer from the tray and swung at the corpse's arm. The sound of cracking bone echoed, yet the grip did not release. Instead, the corpse's head whipped toward Shafik. Its mouth stretched into a grin, lips tearing at the corners. Black fluid dripped down its chin. Shafik dropped the hammer and stumbled back. His mind screamed to flee, but the locked door mocked him. The corpse finally released Dr. Rahman, throwing him across the room as though he weighed nothing. The doctor slammed against the metal cabinet, crashing to the floor. His glasses snapped in half, one lens shattering. He groaned, dazed, clutching his ribs. The corpse slid off the table with a wet thud, landing on the tiles. Its bare feet slapped against the floor as it stood tall, chest wound gaping open. Something inside shifted, not organs, but shapes, worm-like movements writhing in the cavity. Dear God, Rahman whispered, voice trembling. The corpse tilted its head. No God here. It stepped forward. Shafik's body reacted before his mind did. He grabbed the scalpel from the floor and slashed wildly as the corpse approached. The blade cut into its forearm, but instead of blood, more of that thick black tar poured out, hissing as it hit the floor. The smell was unbearable, like burnt hair and rusted iron. The corpse barely reacted. It moved faster, slamming Shafik against the wall, pinning him with inhuman strength. The intern screamed, the sound muffled as a cold, dead hand wrapped around his throat. His vision blurred as pressure tightened. Rahman, still struggling to stand, spotted the bone saw on the instrument table. Summoning every ounce of will, he staggered over, grabbed it, and rushed forward. With a desperate yell, he drove the buzzing blade into the corpse's side. The morgue filled with the grinding sound of saw teeth against flesh and bone. Black tar sprayed, splattering across Rahman's lab coat and face. The corpse shrieked an unholy sound that pierced the air, making the lights overhead flicker back to life in a strobe of horror. It released Shafik, who collapsed to the floor, coughing violently, clutching his bruised throat. Rahman pushed the saw deeper, sawing through ribs. For a moment, it seemed to weaken then, impossibly, it reached down and yanked the spinning saw from its own body, tossing it aside like a toy. The shriek stopped. Silence fell again. The corpse turned slowly to Rahman. You cannot cut what is already broken. It shoved him backward. He tripped over a chair, landing hard on the ground. Pain jolted through his spine. Shafik crawled toward the corner, desperate to find anything to protect himself. His hand brushed against a fallen syringe. He snatched it up, not caring what it contained, and jabbed it into the corpse's thigh. The corpse looked down at the syringe. Black veins spread from the puncture site, but instead of weakening, its body shuddered as though the injection only fueled it. Its eyes blazed brighter. Shafik screamed again, tossing the syringe away. Then something changed. The corpse stopped moving. Its head tilted back. The lights flickered violently again, casting long shadows across the walls. But the shadows did not match their bodies, they moved on their own. Shapes of people, dozens of them, swayed across the walls. their mouths opening and closing in silent screams. Ramon stared, horror washing over him. What are they? The corpse's voice filled the morgue once more, now deeper, layered, as if hundreds spoke through it. They are the ones who came before. The house kept them. Now the door is open. Now they are free. Shafiq felt tears on his face. He had no idea he was crying until the salty taste touched his lips. The shadows on the walls grew clearer, faces, twisted in agony, eyes hollow. They clawed at the walls, at the floor, reaching toward Rahman and Shafiq. No. Rahman shouted, grabbing a scalpel from the floor. He slashed at the shadows, but the blade passed through empty air. The corpse stepped closer. There is no cutting shadows. Then, the morgue door, the one Shafiq had tried to open before, creaked slowly. Not from outside, but as if something inside was unlocking it. A gust of foul wind swept in, carrying whispers, hundreds of them, echoing together in a language neither man could understand. The shadows on the wall turned their hollow eyes toward the open doorway. Rahman realized, too late, they weren't trying to escape. They were waiting. The corpse pointed toward the door, its grin wider now, splitting skin. The way is open. The house is not done. Before either man could move, the shadows rushed into the open door, vanishing into the darkness beyond. The corridor filled with their whispers, their cries, until it sounded like the entire hospital was alive with the voices of the dead. Shafiq crawled to Rahman, clutching his sleeve. We have to get out of here. Rahman stared at the doorway, shaking his head. No. It won't let us. The corpse stepped back, collapsing onto the steel table once more. Its eyes rolled back, and it lay still, like any ordinary cadaver. The black fluid dried on the floor, the smell still heavy in the air. For a moment, there was silence. Only the sound of Shafiq's ragged breathing filled the room. Then, from deep within the hallway, the whispers rose again, louder, closer. Footsteps echoed, not one set, but dozens, hundreds, moving toward the morgue. The shadows were coming back, and they weren't coming alone. Part 3. The lockdown. The morgue door had opened by itself, and the shadows had poured out like smoke made of screaming faces. The corridor beyond was no longer empty, it was alive, filled with the echo of footsteps, whispers, and the stench of decay spreading through the hospital like a living tide. Shafiq clung to Dr. Roman's sleeve, his nails digging into the fabric. Sir, we can't stay here. We'll die if we don't move. Roman's chest rose and fell heavily. His ribs ached from the fall, and his broken glasses gave him a distorted view of the horror around them. But one thing was clear. Escape was no longer as simple as opening a door. The hospital itself seemed to be shifting, changing, sealing them inside like prey in a cage. He forced himself to stand, wiping black tar off his gloves. Listen to me. If we panic, we're finished. We need to stay calm and find another way out. Another way out. Shafiq's voice cracked. There's no way out. The shadows didn't, you see. They weren't people. They weren't even alive. His words broke into a sob. Why is this happening? Asterisk Rahman wanted to answer, to reassure him, but he couldn't. His mind, trained to rationalize death, disease, and the body's failures, was useless against this. This wasn't medical. This was something older, darker. Asterisk, the emergency lights flickered on, glowing a dim red that painted the morgue in the color of blood. The steel table, now holding the still corpse once more, gleamed wetly with black stains. For a moment, the dead man looked ordinary again. Nothing but lifeless flesh, but Rahman no longer believed in the illusion. "Come on," he said sharply. He pulled Shafik toward the hallway. Asterisk, the corridor outside was narrow, the walls lined with peeling paint and cracked tiles. The emergency lights buzzed overhead. Shadows still lingered, drifting like stains on the walls. Every few seconds, one of them detached from the surface and flickered across the floor, vanishing into the darkness. Asterisk, Shafik pressed close behind Rahman, whispering prayers under his breath. His eyes darted constantly, searching the corners, terrified of being touched by the moving silhouettes. Asterisk. They passed the first intersection when a sudden metallic crash echoed from ahead. Both men froze. Something heavy had fallen or been thrown onto the floor. Asterisk, Rahman crouched, motioning Shafik to stay low. Slowly, they crept forward until they reached the turn. Asterisk, a gurney lay overturned in the middle of the corridor, wheels spinning lazily. Papers from old medical files fluttered around it. The air reeked of mold and something coppery, like dried blood, and then they heard it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging, uneven. Asterisk, Rahman's eyes widened. He grabbed Shafik's arm and pulled him behind the gurney. Together they crouched in silence, holding their breath. Asterisk, from the far end of the hallway, a figure emerged. At first it looked human, a man in a hospital gown, walking with a limp. His skin was gray, stretched thin, and his head tilted unnaturally to one side. His eyes were dark holes, black liquid seeping down his cheeks like tears. Asterisk, it stopped in the middle of the hall and sniffed the air. A guttural noise rattled in its throat. Then it slowly turned its head toward the gurney. Asterisk, Shafik bit his lip, hard enough to draw blood. Asterisk, the figure staggered forward, each step slapping against the tiles. Its mouth opened, releasing a low moan that reverberated through the corridor. Asterisk, Rahman's mind raced. If we run, it will hear. If we stay, it will find us. Asterisk, the creature came closer, dragging its feet, leaving black stains with every step. Finally, it reached the gurney. Asterisk, its hand shot out, slamming against the metal. The sound was deafening. Shafik gasped before he could stop himself. Asterisk, the figure's head snapped toward the sound. With an inhuman shriek, it lunged. Asterisk, Rahman acted without thinking. He shoved the gurney forward with all his strength. The wheels screeched, slamming the metal frame into the figure. It toppled backward, crashing to the ground with a crack of bones. Asterisk, run! Rahman shouted. Asterisk, they bolted down the hallway, their footsteps echoing. Shafik's chest burned, his legs barely carrying him. Behind them, the creature shrieked again, louder, echoing through the halls like a siren, and then other voices answered. From every corridor, every open doorway, the same cries rose, hundreds of them. The hospital had awakened. The hospital shifts asterisk. They burst through a set of double doors and stumbled into an abandoned ward. The smell of rot hit them instantly. Beds lined the walls, covered in sheets yellowed with age. Some of the sheets moved slightly, as though something writhed beneath them. Asterisk, don't look. Rahman barked, pulling Shafiq along. But Shafiq's curiosity betrayed him. He glanced at the nearest bed. Asterisk, the sheet shifted, sliding down just enough to reveal a face. Hollow eyes stared back at him from a withered skull. The mouth stretched into a grotesque smile. Asterisk, Shafiq screamed and ran blindly, knocking over a tray of rusted instruments. The clatter rang like a signal. Asterisk, instantly, the beds began to shake. Sheets fell away, revealing half-rotted corpses, some missing limbs, others with gaping holes in their chests. They sat upright, their jaws opening in unison, releasing a chorus of moans. Asterisk, Rahman grabbed Shafiq's arm and pulled him toward the far door. Move now. Asterisk, they sprinted, dodging skeletal hands that clawed at the air. Instruments flew from the tables as though hurled by invisible forces. One scalpel whizzed past Rahman's ear, embedding itself in the wall. Asterisk, they reached the far door and shoved it open. The hallway beyond was darker, narrower, lit only by flickering bulbs. But at least it was empty. For now, they slammed the door behind them and leaned against it, panting. This place? Shafiq gasped. It's alive. The whole hospital. It's alive. Asterisk, Rahman's face was pale, sweat dripping down his temples. He wanted to argue, to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Shafiq was right. This was no longer a building. It was something else, something breathing, watching, hunting. The lockdown. Asterisk, they continued cautiously down the corridor, searching for an exit. But each turn only led them deeper into the maze. Doors that should have opened were locked. Windows showed nothing but black void beyond the glass. It was as if the outside world no longer existed. Asterisk, then, without warning, the emergency alarms began to wail. Red lights spun along the walls, bathing the corridor in a hellish glow. A mechanical voice boomed from unseen speakers. Lockdown initiated. No one leaves. No one survives. The words repeated, distorted, echoing endlessly. Shafiq clamped his hands over his ears. Oh no. Asterisk, Rahman's heart pounded. He looked around desperately for control panels, switches, anything to override the system. But the hospital had taken control. Asterisk, the walls groaned as though alive, tiles cracking, pipes bursting. Black liquid seeped from the ceiling, dripping onto the floor. The smell of decay thickened. Asterisk, then came the footsteps against approaching from every direction. Asterisk, Rahman grabbed Shafiq's shoulders. Listen to me. We can't fight them. We have to find the core of this place. Something is controlling it. If we destroy it, maybe we can get out. Asterisk, Shafiq's eyes were wide with terror. And if we can't? Asterisk, Rahman's jaw tightened. Then we die trying. Asterisk, the footsteps grew louder. Shadows stretched along the walls, reaching for them. The lockdown had begun, and the morgue was only the beginning. Part 4. The house calls. The alarms still echoed in their ears. even as the corridor fell silent again. The voice that had repeated those dreadful words, "No one leaves, no one survives," seemed to cling to the air, crawling into their skulls like poison. Shafiq trembled so violently that his knees buckled. He collapsed against the wall, burying his face in his hands. "We're trapped, sir. There's no way out. The doors, the windows, it's all sealed. This isn't real. This can't be real." Dr. Rahman knelt beside him, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Listen to me. We've seen the impossible, but we're still breathing. That means there's a way to fight. Something is keeping us here, something feeding this nightmare. If we find it, maybe we can break it." Shafiq looked up, tears streaking down his face. "And if we don't?" Rahman didn't answer. He didn't have to. A phone that shouldn't ring, The silence of the corridor was broken suddenly by a sound so ordinary, so mundane, that it froze both men in place. A phone was ringing, not a cell phone, not the shrill beep of a modern device. No, this was the deep, mechanical chime of an old landline telephone, echoing faintly through the darkness. Shafiq's lips parted. "Sir, do you hear that?" Rahman swallowed hard. The ringing came from somewhere deeper inside the ward. A sound completely out of place in a hospital that had been abandoned for years. Each chime grew louder, closer, pulling them forward like invisible chains. They followed it cautiously, their footsteps crunching on shattered glass. The hall twisted unnaturally, as though the walls themselves had shifted. Finally, they found the source, an old nurse's station, dust-covered and rotting. On the counter sat a black rotary phone, its cord tangled, the receiver vibrating with every shrill ring. Rahman stared at it. That phone? It shouldn't even have power. Shafiq shook his head furiously. "Don't touch it, sir. Please don't answer. It's a trick." But the ringing grew unbearable, drilling into their skulls. Against his better judgment, Rahman reached out and lifted the receiver. The ringing stopped. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then came the voice, "Dr. Rahman." The sound was unmistakable. Cold, raspy, intimate. It knew him. Rahman's throat tightened. "Who is this?" The voice chuckled, low and wet, like lungs filled with fluid. "You already know. You cut into me. You opened what was never meant to be opened." Shafiq clutched Rahman's arm, eyes wide. "Who is it? What's it saying?" Rahman ignored him, his hand trembling as he held the receiver. "What do you want?" The voice whispered, "To come home." And then, before Rahman could respond, the line filled with screams. Hundreds of voices, crying, wailing, begging for release. The sound grew louder and louder until it felt like the phone itself was vibrating in his hand. Rahman dropped the receiver. It hit the counter with a clatter, but the screams continued, pouring from the earpiece like smoke. The stench of rot filled the air. The lights above them flickered. The floor trembled. Then the station's walls began to bleed. A house in the hospital. Dark liquid seeped from the cracks in the plaster, oozing down in thick streams. The tiles beneath their feet turned black, slick, pulsing as if alive. Shafik screamed. It's everywhere. It's spreading. Rahman grabbed his arm, pulling him away from the desk. But before they could retreat, the hallway behind them vanished. In its place stood something else. A house. Not a hospital corridor. Not sterile white walls, but the wooden frame of a 2-story house. Its door creaking open, its windows glowing faintly with sickly yellow light. The stench of rot rolled out of it, stronger than before. Rahman stared in horror. He recognized it. This. This is impossible. Shafiq looked at him wildly.
What is it?
Rahman's voice was barely a whisper. My house. Shafiq froze. What do you mean your house? Before Rahman could answer, the phone behind them stopped screaming. The silence was worse than the noise. Then, from inside the glowing windows of the house, figures began to move. Shapes passed by the curtains, their forms twisted and jerking. The front door creaked wider, inviting them inside. A voice drifted out, soft and mocking. Welcome home, Doctor. Faces from the past. The two men stood frozen. The hallway around them no longer existed. It was only the house, standing in the middle of darkness. The hospital had bent its shape, bleeding into Rahman's memories, twisting them into a new nightmare. Rahman's breath came shallow. He knew this place. He had lived in it years ago, with his wife and daughter. But that house had burned down in a fire that had killed them both. Shafiq grabbed his arm, panicked. Sir, we can't go in there. It's not real, it's a trap. But Rahman's feet moved on their own. His body trembled as he stepped toward the front door. He could hear whispers now, voices he hadn't heard in years. Baba. Rahman. Tears welled in his eyes. He wanted to believe. The door swung open fully, revealing the dimly lit living room inside. Furniture sat exactly as it had years ago, untouched by fire. A family photo rested on the mantel, its glass unbroken. And standing in the middle of the room were two figures, his wife, his daughter. Their eyes glowed faintly yellow. Their smiles stretched to wide come inside. They said in perfect unison. The choice Shafiq pulled desperately at Rahman's sleeve. Sir, please. That's not them, don't you see? It's using them to pull you in. Rahman shook, his heart tearing in two. He knew Shafiq was right. He knew these weren't his wife and daughter. Their real bodies had burned years ago. But the sight of them, the sound of their voices, was unbearable. The two figures stepped closer. Their faces flickered, for a moment showing charred skin, hollow eyes, gaping mouths. Then they were whole again, smiling, reaching out their hands. Stay with us, Rahman. Don't leave us again. Rahman fell to his knees, sobbing. His mind screamed to resist, but his heart ached with longing. Shafiq stood frozen behind him, torn between fear and pity. The house groaned around them. The floorboards cracked, the walls pulsed, the ceiling dripped black fluid. The entire structure shuddered, waiting for Rahman's choice. Asterisk, would he step inside and be consumed by the lie? Asterisk, or would he turn away from the faces he loved most and continue the fight against the nightmare consuming them all? Part 5. The vessel. Asterisk. Rahman knelt on the warped wooden floor, his body trembling, his chest heaving with broken sobs. Before him stood his wife and daughter, or the things wearing their faces. Their smiles were too wide, their movements too smooth, as if their flesh was only a mask stretched over something else. Asterisk. Baba. His daughter whispered again. Her tiny hand reached out, trembling with false innocence. Don't leave us in the dark. Asterisk. Shafik stood frozen by the doorframe, his voice breaking. Sir, it's not them. It can't be them. Please don't touch them. Asterisk. But Rahman's hand had already begun to lift, his trembling fingers reaching toward the child's outstretched palm. His heart screamed for release, for reunion, for one impossible moment. He believed, and then the illusion broke. The girl's hand split open down the middle like rotten wood, revealing not flesh but writhing black tendrils, slick and hungry. They lashed toward Rahman's wrist. Asterisk. Shafik reacted first. He lunged forward, grabbing Rahman's arm, yanking him back just as the tendrils snapped shut around empty air. They withdrew instantly, reforming into the shape of a human hand, the girl's face smiling again. Asterisk. Rahman's grief twisted into rage. You are not my family, he roared. His voice cracked through the house like thunder. Asterisk. The two figures tilted their heads in perfect unison. Their mouths opened wide, wider than human jaws should allow, until the skin split and peeled. Black liquid gushed from their throats as they spoke with a single voice. Asterisk. You opened the body. Now you must carry it. The transformation of the house. Asterisk. The walls groaned violently, wood splintering as if the house itself were breathing. The photos on the walls blurred, their faces melting into hollow-eyed shadows. The ceiling dripped tar-like liquid onto Rahman's shoulders. Asterisk. Shafik clutched his head, screaming, It's closing in on us. We have to run. Asterisk. But the front door had vanished. Windows stretched upward into impossible heights, their glass panes rippling like water. The house had no exit. Asterisk. Instead, the floor beneath them pulsed, glowing faintly as veins of black light spread through the boards. The air thickened, heavy with the smell of blood. Asterisk. And in the center of the living room, the corpse they had tried to examine in the morgue appeared. It lay on the carpet as though it had always been there. Its chest rose and fell faintly, mockingly alive. The voice of the house rumbled through the walls. You cut the vessel. You opened the seal. Now you are bound to it. The corpse speaks. Asterisk. Rahman and Shafik stared as the corpse sat upright. Its head lolled unnaturally to one side, bones cracking, and its mouth opened with a wheeze. Asterisk. Doctor. It hissed, its blackened eyes fixing on Rahman. You freed me. You will carry me. Asterisk. Shafik stumbled backward, tripping over a chair. No, no, stay away from us. Asterisk. The corpse's chest split open with a wet rip, exposing not organs but a swirling void of darkness. Tendrils of smoke and bone reached out. Asterisk. Rahman tried to drag Shafik toward the far corner, but the tendrils lashed out, wrapping around his wrist. the moment they touched. His vision filled with flashes, memories that weren't his own. Asterisk, he saw ancient rituals, blood sacrifices, chanting in forgotten languages. He saw a body, bound in chains, buried deep beneath the earth. And he saw himself, scalpel in hand, cutting into the corpse on the morgue table. He had unleashed it. Rahman screamed, yanking his arm free. But the connection lingered, the voice inside his skull whispering, Asterisk, you are mine now, my vessel. My blood, Shafiq's terror. Asterisk, Shafiq pulled Rahman to his feet, shouting desperately, we can't fight it. We have to break the house. Burn it, tear it down, something. Asterisk, but the walls laughed. A low, groaning sound rolled through the beams. The entire structure seemed to mock them. Asterisk, Rahman clenched his fists, his body shaking. He could still feel the thing inside him, writhing beneath his skin, crawling into his veins. He staggered toward the corpse, rage overwhelming his fear. Asterisk, no. I won't be your vessel. Asterisk, the corpse only smiled, its face splitting open until it became nothing but a hollow cavity filled with darkness. The tendrils whipped outward again, slamming Rahman across the room. He crashed into the wall, pain flaring through his ribs. Asterisk, Shafiq screamed his name and rushed to his side, but the house was shifting again. The walls bent inward, the ceiling lowering, the windows bleeding black ichor. The sound of chanting filled the air, dozens of voices whispering in languages that scraped at the edges of sanity. Asterisk, the mark. Rahman looked down at his arm. Where the tendrils had touched, a black sigil had burned into his skin. The mark writhed, as though alive, pulsing with the rhythm of the corpse's breathing. Asterisk, Shafiq's eyes widened in horror. Sir, it's inside you. Asterisk, Rahman's face twisted with fury. Then I'll tear it out. Asterisk, summoning the last of his strength, he picked up a shard of broken wood from the splintered floor. He pressed it against the mark, digging into his own flesh. Blood spurted, but the sigil only glowed brighter. Laughing through the pain, the voice filled the room again. You can't cut me out, doctor. You opened the door. Now you are the door. Asterisk, Rahman dropped the wood, clutching his bleeding arm. His vision blurred, the room spinning as shadows writhed around him. The escape. Asterisk, suddenly. The house shuddered violently. A deafening crash split the air as part of the ceiling collapsed. Shafiq dragged Rahman to his feet, shouting over the roar of splintering wood. Asterisk, there, an opening. We have to move. Asterisk, through the broken ceiling, they could see not sky but the faint outline of the hospital's upper corridors. The house was collapsing back into the hospital. Twisting and tearing apart, asterisk together, they scrambled through the wreckage, dodging falling beams and dripping tar. The voices screamed in fury as the illusions shattered around them. Asterisk, finally, they pulled themselves through the opening and collapsed into the hospital corridor once more, coughing and gasping for breath. The house was gone. Only the faint stench of burning wood lingered. Asterisk, but Rahman still bore the mark on his arm. It pulsed with every heartbeat, whispering promises of what was to come. Asterisk, Shafiq stared at him, his face pale with dread. Sir, you're not the same anymore. Rahman clenched his jaw, his eyes burning with both fear and defiance. No. But whatever this thing is, It hasn't won yet. Asterisk, somewhere deep in the hospital, the corpse's voice echoed once more. Carried on the stale air. Asterisk, the vessel is mine. And Rahman knew the nightmare was only beginning. Asterisk, end of part 5, the vessel. Part 6, the black choir. Asterisk, the corridor was colder now. Not the chill of broken air conditioning or damp stone, but something deeper, something that seeped into their bones. Shafiq wrapped his arms around himself, his teeth chattering, though sweat rolled down his forehead. Asterisk, Rahman leaned against the wall, clutching his bleeding arm. The black mark carved into his skin pulsed faintly, each throb in rhythm with his heartbeat. Every time it pulsed, he heard faint whispers in his head. Not words yet, but broken syllables, like a song trying to form. Asterisk, Shafiq glanced nervously at him. Sir, that thing inside you. It's talking, isn't it? Asterisk, Rahman didn't answer right away. He pressed his palm hard over the mark, as if pressure could drown out the voices. It's not talking. It's singing the song in the walls. Asterisk, they moved cautiously down the corridor, their footsteps muffled against the grime-covered tiles. The emergency lights above flickered, casting everything in a nauseating rhythm of shadow and dim red glow. Then Rahman froze. From somewhere deep in the hospital, faint voices began to hum. A low, haunting chant. At first, it was almost beautiful, soft, harmonic, rising and falling like a hymn. Asterisk, but as it grew louder, the beauty unraveled. Notes slipped into dissonance. Voices layered upon one another, wrong and broken, until it sounded like hundreds of throats singing at once, without breath, without pause. Asterisk, Shafiq pressed his hands over his ears, whimpering. Make it stop. Make it stop. Asterisk, Rahman stumbled, gripping the wall as the mark on his arm flared with heat. He realized, with horror, that the song wasn't just in the air. It was inside him, vibrating through his veins, forcing his own breath to match its rhythm. Asterisk, he coughed, black flecks spraying from his mouth onto the floor. The song grew louder, and then the corridor ahead of them split open. The choir appears. Asterisk, the walls peeled back like rotting flesh, revealing a cavernous space that shouldn't have existed within the hospital. It was a vast chamber, stretching upward into darkness, lined with broken pews like a twisted cathedral. Asterisk, at the far end stood a massive altar of stone, black and wet as if carved from bone and tar. Asterisk, and filling the pews, seated in perfect rows, were the singers. Hundreds of corpses. Some were skeletal, some still dripping with rot, others unnervingly fresh. Their hospital gowns stained and torn. Their mouths moved in unison, their throats producing the inhuman chorus that filled the air. Empty eyes stared forward, unblinking, as they sang their endless hymn. Asterisk, Shafiq gagged, clutching his stomach. Dear God, it's a choir. Asterisk, Rahman's knees buckled. The song resonated in his skull, shaking loose his thoughts, pulling him closer to the altar. The mark on his arm glowed brighter, each pulse echoing the rhythm of the chant. Asterisk, the corpses weren't just singing, they were calling to him. The altar's command. Asterisk, from behind the altar, a figure emerged. Asterisk, it was tall, impossibly thin, its body wrapped in tattered cloth that clung to bone. Its face was hidden beneath a mask of cracked porcelain, painted with the faint outline of a smile. Its hands were long, skeletal, ending in nails that looked more like blades. It raised its arms, and instantly, the choir fell silent. The sudden absence of sound was worse than the chant itself. Then, in a voice that seemed to come from every wall at once, the figure spoke. The vessel has arrived. Shafik grabbed Raman's arm, shaking him desperately. We have to go. Do you hear me? We have to run. But Raman couldn't move. His body trembled as though strings pulled him toward the altar. His eyes burned with tears, he couldn't blink away. The masked figure stepped closer, its head tilting slightly, as though studying him. Dr. Raman, you opened the body. You freed the hymn. Now you will complete the song. Raman's lips trembled. What do you want from me? The figure extended one long finger, pointing to his chest. You will sing. The possession before Raman could react. The choir began again. The voices surged, louder, heavier, pressing against the air like a storm. The sound forced its way into his lungs. He tried to scream, but only black smoke poured from his mouth. His chest convulsed violently. His throat vibrated against his will, and a note escaped him low, guttural, inhuman. Shafik's eyes widened in terror. Sir, fight it. Raman fell to his knees, clutching his throat, but the song wouldn't stop. Each time he tried to close his mouth, his jaw forced itself open wider, the mark on his arm glowing like fire. His voice joined the choir, deep and terrible, carrying words in a language no human tongue should know. The masked figure tilted its head, almost approvingly. Yes. The vessel sings. Shafik sobbed, shaking Raman's shoulders. Sir, please. It's taking you, don't let it take you. But Raman's voice only grew louder, merging perfectly with the dead. The sound reverberated so violently that the chamber walls cracked. Dust raining from above. Shafik clutched his head, screaming against the noise, breaking the song. Then something inside Raman snapped through the fog of voices. Through the burning mark, he heard a memory. Not of the hospital, not of the corpse, not of the ritual, but of his daughter's laugh, pure, human, real. With every ounce of strength left, Raman forced his voice to break. He bit down hard on his own tongue, tasting blood, and the note faltered. His scream tore through the choir, jagged and raw, not part of their harmony. Instantly, the chamber shuddered. The corpses twitched, their mouths snapping shut, their song breaking into chaos. The masked figure staggered, its head jerking unnaturally. Raman collapsed to the floor, coughing blood, the mark on his arm flickering erratically. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then the masked figure hissed, its voice distorted with fury. You will sing again. You cannot resist forever. With a single sweep of its arm, the pews erupted. Corpses lurched to their feet, turning their hollow eyes toward Raman and Shafik. Their jaws opened wide. No longer singing but screaming, the black choir had been unleashed. End of part 6.